welcome everyone to the first edition of the 2026 S&S Bills Talk here at the Come On In Sports Network. Lawrence Foster here joining you on this Wednesday evening, 7 o'clock Eastern. This is when we hope to be having our weekly show, talking about what happened the previous weekend and what's going to happen in the upcoming week. Everything to go on with the Bills we're going to discuss here. And as always at the Come On In Sports Network, your thoughts and comments are always desired and wanted. So if you have anything, throw it in the chat, become part of the show. We are the Come On In Sports Network for a reason. We invite you all to come on in. So welcome on this Wednesday evening. It was day one for the Buffalo Bills at training camp. It was a wet field, which Joe Brady said he loved. That's football weather. Appears they made it clear, injury-free. I know first day of training camp can worry about any injuries. There's been a few already around the league, like Brian Breesy for the Saints tore his ACL today. The Panthers have already lost a few players. So it seems like the Bills made it out clear today. But we kick off our show. Defensive thoughts from the first day. From everything I've seen reported, the Bills did a lot of man coverage with single high safety, which if you're a Bills fan, you know is a pretty stark difference from what the Bills had done in the past in their Sean McDermott, very zone-heavy scheme. And I think everybody kind of saw that was going to go on with the Bills this year, is that it's going to be more emphasis on man coverage. They're going to try to get and create more pressure so these man things can happen and work. And you saw them draft Igbenogson out of Ohio State, which kind of shocked a lot of people. But he fits what they want to do on defense, doing a lot of man coverage. And I think the strengths of Maxwell Harrison, he played a lot of zone in college, but he has the traits and capabilities to be a man cover corner. The speed he has, the instincts, even though he struggled at times last year in his rookie year, he had the injury in training camp, which kind of derailed his progress. He's healthy coming in this year, had a full offseason in the system. I'm imagining he spent time talking with and working with Jim Leonard to figure out what his role is going to be in this defense. So in day one, I know it's just day one, but you already started to see a transition to what the Bills are going to hope to do there. And they're kind of still shallow at the cornerback position, but with what they're going to do, you wouldn't imagine someone like Trey White. If it had been Sean McDermott, he's probably already in training camp. But I'm not so sure that Trey White at this stage in his career translates to what the Bills are doing on defense, wanting to do the man coverage. Trey's more of a zone guy. He's been zone since the Bills drafted him. They had Sean McDermott then, so he ran it then. But I'm excited about what this defense can do, doing those types of things, doing more man coverage, like trusting the players to make plays and being creative on defense. I know over the 10 years that we had Sean McDermott as coach, he brought the Bills to levels they hadn't seen since the Jim Kelly Super Bowl era. But the defense always collapsed when it mattered most in the playoffs. Like when push came to shove, the defense didn't do what it needed to do. A couple years in the AFC Championship game, the anemic Chiefs offense put up their season-high points against the Bills defense. When Benford got concussed and had to go out in the first half of that game, they just mercilessly attacked Kyer Elam, who was with the Bills at that point. You can't blame the Chiefs for doing it, but that's just an example of what had happened throughout the playoffs under Sean McDermott. So the Bills may be less of a regular season strength on defense, but my hope and what I'm kind of praying happens is the change in the results are altered in the postseason when it really matters. Too often in the playoffs, the Bills played passive. They played not to lose and ended up losing anyway. Like the Broncos have an anemic offense, and look what they did last year against Buffalo in the divisional round. And like I said, a couple years ago in the AFC Championship game, the Chiefs scored their season high in points against the Bills in the championship game. That happened too much, 13 seconds. Josh took the lead 3 times in the fourth quarter, and the defense gave it right back every time. So you start to see it day one. Obviously, you don't ever read into much of anything, but you can read into what they're doing and what they're installing. And what they installed on day one is a very man-heavy, single high safety looks. And that's going to be a stark difference to what's been happening at One Bills Drive under Sean McDermott. I, for one, am excited to see what happens. I'd like to see the Bills bring in one or two more veteran cornerbacks, because we know just from past years that the Bills aren't going to make it through the year with all their cornerbacks healthy, and they're one or two away from having street names on there. So I'd like to see them be a little aggressive, go out and get some help there. But at least on day one, you're starting to see a difference on defense, and I, for one, am excited to see that. Another hot topic heading into day one of training camp, Keon Coleman. Brandon Beane spoke about him today in his press conference after practice. He mentioned how he has matured. He's able to overcome adversity and stay more steady. I mean, I wouldn't expect the Bills to say anything but that. Hopefully it's true, but he has to prove it when push comes to shove, when the heat's on. Last preseason, he was tearing it up in training camp. Everyone was talking about, oh man, look at Keon. He's poised for a breakout year. He's going to become a star in year two. And after the week one, it seemed like he was going to be. He really had a great game against the Ravens, but then kind of fell off after that, and again was having issues of tardiness, team discipline, having to be sat out parts of games or inactive altogether. So just part of me questions, like, is Brandon Beane being 100% truthful that he's matured, or is it just them saying what they're going to have to say, especially after the way they kind of threw him under the bus when they did the whole McDermott was fired thing, and kind of Pagula made it to seem like, yeah, man, Brandon Beane didn't want to draft him, but he did anyway. They kind of threw Keon Coleman on Sean McDermott. But in practice, a couple of things notable about Keon Coleman. First and foremost, he was the first guy doing punt returning, which really isn't something anybody had thought of Keon Coleman as. I mean, they have Mecole Hardman there, who's kind of just that, like a return man. Bell has some history doing that as well. But when I saw that today coming out of training camp on X, that a Keon Coleman was back there returning punts, that was kind of an eye-opener and kind of a head-scratch too. Like, he doesn't seem to have the skill set of a punt returner. He's not really fast twitch. He's not really a speed demon. So that's just interesting to see that he was in the first guy doing punts. Like, maybe he was just doing it to get some reps in if he is like the new safety guy like they used to do with Micah Hyde. But seems like Shakir kind of covered that role when Hyde was gone. But the other thing, he started training camp off with a 7-on-7, and Josh targeted him first thing, and he dropped the ball right away. Now, the pass, to be fair, was a little bit behind him watching the training camp footage. But I think Josh made a point the very next play to go back to him, and then Coleman made a nice play over Maxwell Hairston. So that might be some of what Brandon Beane was talking about. And he did address it in his press conference of, yeah, he struggled a little bit early in practice, but he rebounded. But that's just a thing with Keon Coleman. He's always had those flashes. He had against the Ravens last year. He scored a touchdown against the Broncos in the playoffs. He had those big games in his rookie year. It's the consistency the Bills need, the play in and play out. They have to be able to rely on him. And just within the first two plays, you kind of saw that roller coaster, the seesaw of what Keon Coleman is. He'll make you be like punch your arm on your couch one play, and the next play you're jumping up to celebrate what he did. And in the NFL, that just doesn't work. You got to be more consistent. So what I hope to see is the drops get negated, and then he just becomes a far more consistent player. And really, that's going to come when we start to see the joint practices that the Bills will have in the preseason games. Because last year, like we already mentioned during training camp, he had a really great, like everyone was raving about what he did last year. And then because the Bills were on Hard Knocks too, it just didn't translate. So I want to see it more on the field against other people, not against the Bills competition. So we're going to hold off on really determining whether that was coach speak about Keon Coleman being more mature, or if it's actually like something that's going to pay dividends and kind of show out on the field this year. The next thing, the injuries. Like I said, I think the Bills made out pretty well. I haven't heard or seen anything about injuries from today. The only person on PUP was Shavers, who everyone expected that because he didn't get injured till the playoffs last year. So that was kind of an expected move. But a couple positive things. Michael Hoyt was out there. Didn't seem like he had really any limitations, which is fantastic. The few times he was able to play last year, he showed that he's an impact guy. And he's kind of built for this defensive role he's going to be playing under Jim Leonard. So he already had like an impact last year in just a few games against the Chiefs and the Panthers till he got hurt. So I'm really excited to see what he's doing. And the fact that he's at where he's at is pretty good already. Dalton Kincaid said that everyone said that he passed his conditioning and all the physical with flying colors. And you might be thinking about, well, why are we talking about Kincaid? His knee, that's what's held him back the last few years is his knee. It seems like it's like a degenerative thing of what's happening there. And they try to limit his reps. You heard the Bills talking about that during the offseason, trying to limit and make him be there for the whole year. But if we can get him to be on the field more, he has the potential to be that difference maker that they need outside of DJ Moore. The Bills drafted him to be that, and he showed that he can do it. It just his knee health really hasn't lived up and been able to hold up for him to be able to have that impact. It's kind of the same for that tight end class, right? Because Sam Laporta's had his injury issues with Detroit as well. But Kincaid, at least at the start of camp, seems to be as healthy as he can be. And I hope the Bills are able to manage and keep it that way, because they really need to use him more like a traditional tight end, because I saw the stat, like when he's on the field as the only tight end, it's like a 75% pass chance. It's like when Frank Gore was on the field when the Bills had him, like the run, like the percentage of them running left really no question to the defense. Yeah, they have Dawson Knox, is probably the best mix of the two. Spencer Hawes thought about more of the blocking tight end. Kincaid at least needs to be a threat to be out there on running plays, so it's not always Kincaid's out there by himself. It's a pass play. McDermott Bean a couple years ago mentioned how they needed him to kind of get stronger. And I think that's why, because they realize, hey, like as great as he is as a pass catcher, if the defense knows we're passing, it kind of can negate his impact. So I really hope that his knee health this year allows him to be out on the field more when it's time to run the ball, so we become less predictable. And think about that. Like if it gets more to like a 60-40 run pass ratio, think about how dynamic the play action would be off of that. If teams really have to worry about, all right, we don't know if we're going to run and pass, we got to kind of play it safe. And boom, you hit play action. Cook is on having a heater, and there's Kincaid over the middle. That's where he can have his big impact down the field plays, is when he's able to be on the field as the only tight end and they're running successfully. That's where the play action will open up and his impact increases. So that's why he's on this list. His knee seems to be as healthy as it can be. And then Dorian Williams, who had kind of missed a lot of the offseason with his issue, was not in a non-contact jersey today. He was out there for the reps. So it seems like he's ready to roll for training camp. And each week we'll keep everybody up to date on what's going on injury-wise, because we know as training camp progresses, you'll have soft tissue stuff. You'll have tweaks and injuries and bumps and bruises, veteran rest days, and all that stuff. We'll keep you up to date here at S&S Bills Talk on the Come On In Sports Network. Leads us to our next topic. We have rookie thoughts. The big rookie thought I have of the day is Skylar Bell, who I'm very high on. I was very excited the Bills got him. I thought they could have drafted him around and would have been happy with him being taken around earlier. They were moving him all around, and somebody interviewed him after practice and talked about him being moved around. He's like, yeah, I'm being thrown into deep end, and he's absorbing it all, and that's great. the more versatile he is, the better chance he has of being on the field and having an impact, because the Bills need somebody to step up outside of DJ Moore and Shakir. Obviously, they're hoping Keon Coleman will step up. They're hoping Josh Palmer stays healthy. But Bell, to me, is like he's the one that could have a real big impact if they allow him to. The reason I say that is I think back in past years under Sean McDermott, it seems that they had brought almost all the rookies along slowly instead of just biting the bullet. Maybe they're going to make a mistake or two, but get them out there, getting the reps and getting that experience they need. And then when they need it and they have to rely on those younger guys later in the year when it really matters, they hadn't had those chances to have those mistakes yet. So I'm hoping it's going to be different under Joe Brady. Now, if it is, Bills fans need to be patient with that. They need to be understanding that the young guys and young players are going to make mistakes. Maybe veterans won't. But it's better to happen in September and October than come December, January, hopefully February. Those mistakes they've learned from, they've seen it, and then when it happens in the game, they're prepared for it in the division round, in the championship, hopefully the Super Bowl. So I'm really hoping that that's a thing that's going to happen for them. Maxwell Harrison seemed to take all the first-team reps alongside Benford today, so you didn't really get a chance to see Ignosin out there with the ones. And then it's hard to really tell about the linemen like T.J. Parker. Until pads get on it, it's hard to really judge any linemen because they're not able to do too much with just helmets on. But Bell's the one I was really interested in about him being moved all around, inside, outside, but all the receiver spots. It seems like he's going to be like a jack of all trades, which is great. If he's trained at all of them, when the injuries or tired legs, or maybe just in a game, like when somebody goes down, it doesn't matter which position it is. If he's already had the practice and the reps, Bell can step in regardless of position. So he's the one I'm really excited about on offense for the Bills this year as a rookie. And I hope that Brady gives them more of a chance than McDermott has in the past. And then our Nickel City Nightmare isn't a nightmare. This week on Monday, the Bills revealed their new alternate jerseys, Nickel City edition, all gray. Well, not all gray, primarily gray with blue collar to represent the blue collar. You can go look at the breakdown of why everything looks the way it does. And then they had the charge emblem you see there on Josh's helmet. They have that as that new helmet on it. It's a blue base instead of white or red, which has been tradition. A lot of hate on that. And Josh Allen came out today and kind of said, hey, stop hating on it. Like, a lot of people put work into here. He talked about like the meaning and the why things were the way they are. And as my buddy said, like, well, what else is Josh going to say? He's not going to be like, yeah, I hate him. He's kind of the face of the franchise. He's going to speak out in support of it. But I just want to get everyone's thoughts on it. If anyone's in here, like, what do you think about the Bills' new jerseys? I think the jerseys are made. It's the helmet that I'm not a big fan of. Like, the Bills logo is just like so iconic. Either this one or the standing buffalo. Obviously I'm a Bills fan, so I'm biased, but I just think it's such a great logo, period. And the fact that no form of a buffalo is on there, just a charge symbol, which I know is at the new stadium. From what I've heard about people who've been at the stadium, that's kind of a theme throughout the stadium, is just that charge logo without the buffalo. So it seems like they incorporated that. But I'm somebody who believes in, like, not believes, but there's something to uniform jinxes as well. And even when Josh Allen today at his press conference was asked about what do you think about them compared to the white ones, Josh said, well, we didn't win with the white ones. So I'm sure a lot of players will be like, well, we'll see how we play with them, see how we do on the field with them. I, for one, don't ever want to see the blue pants with the white tops again. The Bills have like a 33 win percentage with them. Yeah, I mean, obviously the uniform doesn't have anything to do with it, but we know how superstitious players are. We know how superstitious fans are. Why tempt it? So thankfully, just going to be a one-time wear. I would imagine the Bills are also going to wear the red helmet at some point this year. But For the start of training camp week, that was obviously some big news in Buffalo, was a Nickel City uniform. So just wanted to get everyone's thoughts on that and share mine as well. And then I had this topic I heard on the radio. I listen to Sirius XM, moving the chains a lot, either live or on demand after the show. And they were talking about players, non-quarterbacks, that if they got hurt would really derail and hamper their team. So I thought that was a really interesting topic and something we could discuss here on the show this week was what's a one non-Josh injury that would hamper the Bills? Obviously, if Josh Allen gets hurt, the Bills aren't going anywhere. Kyle Allen is not going to do anything for this team. That's one area where I think the Bills could do a lot better. I mean, I wish they would have kept Mitchell Trubisky, but bringing back Kyle Allen and like if Josh goes down, like that's it. That's not too promising. Somebody who can maybe hold down the fort and not be awful would be wonderful, but it seems like the Bills have gotten to the point of like, well, if Josh gets hurt, we're screwed anyway, so might as well tank at that point. But the non-Josh injury, I'm going to do one on offense and one on defense. A lot of people would say James Cook would be the answer. I don't think that would be the answer. I think they have a really strong running back room as a whole. Ty Johnson, Ray Davis. They brought in that guy from the UFL who had a really good season last year for the champion UFL team. I think the Bills would be A-okay. A couple years ago in Ray Davis's rookie year, remember he had to take on a starring role against the Jets, had over 100 yards of offense, including like a 35-yard jumping reception. So it's not James Cook, which a lot of people just by default would be like, man, it wouldn't be as dynamic. But they'd be just fine with Ty Johnson and Ray Davis. They'd probably split a lot more than James does with those two. But to me, it's Deion Dawkins. If you look at what the Bills have on the offensive line, if Dawkins gets hurt, they don't really have anyone anywhere near his level. Even if he had a down year last year, which I even think even he would admit he did. And I think that's why you saw a renewed focus this offseason from him. He talked about playing at the lightest weight he ever has, and you can kind of see he looks way more in shape and way more fit this year. So I think he's going to be poised for a real big bounce back season. If he goes down, I think that's a real big problem for the Bills. I don't know would they try to swing Spencer Brown over there? Would Alec Anderson push out and play at the left tackle? I don't know. It's not something I want to have to worry about. Because for about a decade, he's been a fixture on that left side when we don't really have to worry about it. I mean, yeah, almost every tackle in the league is going to have a play here or there, but overall, Deion's easily a top 10 left tackle in the league. And then if he's back in shape and at his best shape in his career, he can be up near the top 5. He's a big man. But for as big as he is, he's so agile, and he has that move that he's been called for holding a couple times, but every lineman and player's like, it's not a hold, but the way they kind of like olays him a little bit to the ground, he gets called for it, even though it's not truly a penalty. So on offense, it's him. If the Bills lost Deion Dawkins, I think they'd be at least 4 to 5 points less a game just by him not being on the field. And then on defense, that's a tough one. I'm torn between Ed Oliver, who you saw what happened. Like he was having a fantastic year before his injuries last year. He had the huge play against the Ravens where he forced that fumble of Derrick Henry late in the game, got the Bills the ball back, able to score, and they ended up winning that one. He was probably at his peak last year, and then when he went down, look what happened. Like, look what happened to the defense. So I think Ed Oliver would be option 1. And then I think Cole Bishop will probably be number 2. He made a big jump in year 2, and everyone's expecting him under Jim Leonard to have like at least a Pro Bowl caliber season. Yeah, they brought in Geno Stone. They brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But Bishop offers them such a chess piece of what he can do. He's underrated athletically. He can make up for a lot of mistakes, and he's a pretty good tackler too. Like he's one of the Bills' fastest defenders, which is saying something because one thing they've lacked for a long time is just overall speed on defense. They've been so slow. So I'm torn between Ed Oliver and Bishop, but I think it would have to be probably Oliver just because there are some veterans behind at the safety position. I don't know who would step in Ed's place that can have his impact that the Bills have on the defensive line right now. So for the offense, I picked Deion Dawkins over James Cook, where that injury would kind of derail that side of the ball. And if I was forced to choose between Cole Bishop and Ed Oliver, I'd say Ed Oliver's loss would be a bigger negative overall. And then the last topic we have of the day, should the Bills trade for Vita Vea? It was announced yesterday that Vita Vea, because he can't really come to contract terms with the Buccaneers, is seeking a trade from the Buccaneers. He's 31 at the end of his contract extension. You just saw what Jalen Carter got paid by the Eagles. So defensive tackles are getting money. And Vita Vea realizes like this is probably his last chance to cash in. So he wants to cash in. And a lot of Bills fans, a lot of people on the Bills X community that I follow, like Cover One and a few of the others were talking about like, man, make it happen, Bean. And strategically, in what the Bills want to do in the 3-4, he would be a perfect fit in the middle for what Buffalo wants to do in the 3-4 defense. And really, like, they're relying on Deion Walker right now just because he's a big body. But you saw last year, he's so much more than that. So bringing Vita Vea in will let him push out and have more of an impact as an end in this scheme. I mean, the Bills are going to be in a lot of four-man fronts anyway when they play nickel. But when they're the base 3-4, Vita Vea would be the one piece they just do not have. Yes, Deion Walker has a size, but he's not the same type of player as Vita. Vita Vea is a space eater. He's what you want as your nose in a 3-4. Now, the question is, what would it take? Would it take a second-round pick and obviously a contract extension? Are the Bills willing to give up a second-round pick? I would be, because he's a known commodity. Yes, he's had not been at the top of his game the past few years, but he's still something the Bills don't have. And Bean has talked about, man, he's always scouring out there for making the roster better, and I don't see a way that this wouldn't make the roster better. Now, obviously, the money part does matter. Like, what is he seeking? I don't see any way he's seeking what Jalen Carter got. But obviously, with the Bills have been cap-strapped for a few years, they'd have to make it work money-wise. They'd have to probably restructure a few things. But the contract aside, just on a pure fit, he would be exactly what the Bills' defense needs and is lacking. If they can make the draft compensation work, screw the money and get it done. You've seen teams be able to finagle the cap and work the cap. And like, man, how are they able to do all that? You see the Eagles signing people all the time. The cap can be finagled. The cap can be worked. To make Jim Leonard's defense come to its full potential, go out there and get a Vita Vea. Then you got your true nose, and Deion Walker can out and play his what would be a more like 4-eye, I think it was what it's called. He would make everybody on the defensive line that much better. So to me, it's not a question of like I really hope Bean is already on at least making phone calls like, hey, what did it take? I'm like, if they want like 2 first-round picks, sure. You don't make that trade. But if it's a second, I don't see why you wouldn't. And you could throw in another tackle, throw in Dwayne Carter, like the forgotten man on this defensive line. But it would be a great get for the Bills, especially at this point in the season, like where training camp started, that you kind of expect your rosters are pretty much set at this point. To be able to go and get a Vita Vea would be such a big boon and a boost, and that would give him more than a month to get used to the scheme, get used to the players, get used to being in Buffalo. It's one of those things like if you're going to do it now. Don't wait until a week before the season starts and then he's trying to learn as he goes. Go get it done, get him in Buffalo, and get him acclimated with his teammates, with Jim Leonard's system. But that's our topics for the day. I want to thank everyone for joining me at S&S Bills Talk at the Come On In Sports Network. Be here every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern if you're a Bills fan and want to talk about the Bills, or if you're a Bills hater and you want to slam on the Bills and be like, say why things are bad and the sky is falling, Buffalo, by all means. We are the Come On In Sports Network, so that means come on in. We want you to talk with us. We want you to kind of drive where the show goes. The more you chat, we throw your questions and comments up onto the stream when they pop up. We throw them up on there. We address you. That's what the thing I love about the Come On In Sports Network is. When we get that interactivity, the show is just that much better, and you get your voice heard as well. So every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern, S&S Bills Talk with myself, Lawrence Foster, will be live talking about what's going on with the Buffalo Bills. So we'll give everyone a few minutes. If there's anybody who wants to throw a question or comment into the comments, go ahead. Last thing we'll talk about is obviously Joe Brady being year one in Buffalo. You've heard a lot of players say it's like a fresh breath of fresh air. I think the week one opponent for the Bills, the Houston Texans, have been such a thorn in the Bills' side under McDermott. Like playing in Houston is like a house of nightmares there. I instantly think back to the playoff game where they blew the big halftime lead they have, and I still say they got jobbed at the second half kickoff where the player caught it, just dropped the ball. He didn't kneel it, didn't do a fair catch or anything, and the Bills recovered for what should have been a touchdown. But beyond that, to me, week one is a great chance for Joe Brady to show that this is going to be a different squad, a different team. Because the Bills have not played well in Houston. And that's who they play week one. Last year, they lost to Davis Mills in Houston. C.J. Stroud was hurt. And that was the first play of the year where they did the hook and ladder when they absolutely needed a huge gain. And they did that 3 times and lost every single time they did it last year, even though the hook and ladder play was successful. They did it against Houston and lost. They did it against the Eagles and lost. And then they did it in the Broncos game and lost. So how about no more hook and ladders? Because obviously, again, as a superstitious person, it doesn't result in wins. But thank you, everyone, for hanging out at the Come On In Sports Network for our first edition this year of the S&S Bills Talk. Again, Wednesday evening, 7 o'clock Eastern. I'll be live every week to discuss the Bills. Make sure you're always staying tuned to the Come On In Sports Network. Follow us on X. Follow us on YouTube. We are on TikTok now as well. Lots of shows. Dolph will be on later with his youth football show. I think that's at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 p.m. Central Time. You have the Real Fan Sports Talk. Always the Saints Talk. Just nonstop sports talk and action here at the Come On In Sports Network. Make sure you follow us across all socials so you don't miss any of our shows. And as always, the door is open. So come on in. Go Bills.